So folks, I'm Chakra, as Molly gave an introduction. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about, deeper about Truterra and what we are doing and how we are building the system. Before I go there, I was hoping that you all will have a, alcoholic beverage in your hand, because first part of my slide is a little bit more depressing, but maybe next time, maybe next time we'll do that. The topics that I want to cover is, first is why. Why we need to talk about sustainability, why we talk about sustainability in ag. That's what I want to first cover. The second piece is what are we doing? So Teddy talked about a lot about Truterra and Land O'Lakes in general. I should have actually connected with him before the content that I put together, because we have a lot of the similar content on Land O'Lakes in general. But I'll go deeper about Truterra and try to help you understand how we have structured that solution. So that's the second part. The third part is around the ecosystem-based architecture, which is a little bit more unique to how we are approaching. And then composable architecture, which is a little bit more about how we build in a modular fashion so that we can be adaptable, reusable, and all the other things. So those are the three main things. And the last piece is around learnings. I have 4 major learnings that I want to share. And we'll have a panel discussion after that. So why climate change and why we're talking about sustainability in general, right? So if you think about the chart that is there on the top left, it talks about after industrial revolution, how the global temperature has been going up. And you saw June was one of the hottest month ever in record for the world, right? So we are already following that trend. And if that trend continues, by 2100, the temperature will be around like 4 degrees Celsius up if we don't do anything. And if we take some actions and stuff that the government organizations are trying to do, we may land around 1.5 to 2. So this is the best case scenario, people, 1.5 to 2 degree increase in temperature by 2100, right? So what happens when the Earth is, 2 degrees above or 1.5 degrees Celsius above what it is now? You see a lot of numbers over there. Arctic, sea ice, which is melting. It results in impact to the overall sea level, which has an impact to the coral levels, the coral depletion that's going to happen. That has impact to the species that we have. That has impact to the weather, extreme weather conditions that we're running into. That has impact to the water availability. We're talking about around 400 million people in urban population going to have impact of not having enough water, right? Water scarcity. I have one of my neighbor. She uses scissors to prune her lawn. So you can only imagine what she'll go through if she doesn't have water, right? At least for her, we need to do something about it. And then you look at the impact of that in food production. Every half degree increase in temperature results in yield loss. And if you think about, if you put the extreme weather conditions on top of it, you're going to have, food, production challenges and stuff, which actually impacts a lot of countries', security and economics and all that. So there's a lot of effect of, if we don't do anything, the world is going to be not that pleasant, right? So that's where we come into play, at least from our side as Land O'Lakes, what we're doing. So as Teddy mentioned, Land O'Lakes is a farmer-owned co-op. And we have got the 4 major business units, and Truterra is at the center of it. I think he provided a lot of coloring around how all these businesses are driven by insights. But I want to touch a little bit more around Truterra and talk about what we are doing in that. So we think about like food production. If you think about like milk, a jug of milk that shows up in your fridge, 70 to 80% of the emission corresponding to that milk happens at the farm gate level. So if Nestle or any other company that uses milk in the downstream CPG production, if they want to reduce the overall greenhouse gas, they have to go all the way up the chain and try to reduce that at the farm level. And that's where we can play a big role. We have a very deep understanding of the entire value chain from farm to fork, and we can, in essence, provide those insights that are required for the farmer to actually reduce their overall GHG footprint. Because for Nestle to reduce their GHG footprint and meet their commitments, they have to work with the farmer, and we are the ones who are the bridge that connects these two groups together. And how we are doing that is, in essence, creating programs. So we have different kinds of programs around carbon, market access, soil health. And the idea of these programs is, all the farmers by nature, they are very sustainability pro. The reason for that is I think 80 or 90% of the farms in US is family owned. They are like third generation, fourth generation. So they want to hand over the land, the entire operation in a healthy shape to their kids, right? So they want to do good. Now, what is preventing them from following sustainable practices is it economically viable? Is it agronomically sound? So you need to have a mix of all these three things to really make the sound decision. And that's where Trutra can play a big role in terms of not only providing them advice around how they can reduce their overall GHG footprint, but also connecting that to what it means for their soil health. What does it mean for entire farming operations? So how does the economy works? How does the agronomy works? And that is a unique value proposition that Trutra brings in because we as a company, we as a co-op operate in the entire value chain. So we have been operational for quite some time, and I see Vamsi over there. He's one of the key guys who's been there from the beginning. I know, Vamsi, you start to build that product, sitting in a dark room with a bunch of SMEs and stuff. And from that point to where we are now, we have made some tremendous progress. The past 2 years, we have been able to give farmers $9 million in order for them to adopt sustainable practices and stuff. And then we have been able to remove almost 500,000 metric tons of carbon from the atmosphere, which means a lot of cars, a lot of planes and whatnot, right? So definitely we had been able to make a big dent in terms of how I've been able to improve the overall food production. So next I want to talk about how are we doing this? So you think about, this is a fast evolving space and there are a lot of different players and there are new players that are coming up every other minute. What we want to do was we want to tap into the capabilities that are already there in this ecosystem. So if we think about a farmer, they might be engaging with set of systems and tools and stuff already. They may have their own tractors, where they are using those tractors for, say, tillage or applying, crop nutrient product, right? They may have their own FMI system where they're doing their farm management system. They may have their interact with the retailer where they get all the crop input products. So they may have an ERP system over there. So what we have tried to do is not try to do all of this by ourselves. We want to tap into, say, for example, on collecting information, we want to tap into the systems where the information is already sitting and also lean on a company like Microsoft to actually build those integrations and maintain those integrations, right? The reason for doing that is, we want to burn our calories in the area where we have got expertise in. We are good in building integrations, but Microsoft is better at building integrations. So why don't we tap them to maintain those integrations and give us the, bring in the data that is required from the system where it is sitting. Right, so that's the first step. The second step of enrich, this is where our IP and competitive differentiation is. We have got our own data model, which kind of brings all this information together. And then we generate insights from that data that we have collected. And those insights are what are being served to the grower to help them understand for a given field, what kind of practice changes they can follow, right? So that's what you see at the top level, which is the program. So if you see there are a lot of icons over here in the first block and the second block, and all those are from the concept that we want to tap into existing capability. We don't want to, build each and everything within in-house. And we think about engage, we want to meet with where the producers and the growers are already engaging. If they have a system where they're looking at their billing information, if they have a system where they're already looking at their farm performance, right? You want to make sure that our insights and our, all the things, the programs that we are serving shows up in their respective places, right? So that they don't have to adopt a new tool, A farmer is not crazy about sitting in front of a computer and actually opening up a software and, playing with it, right? They want to be there at their field. They want to be there with the cows. They want to, doing their actual operation. So we want to make sure that we minimize their ease of adoption of our programs and services by playing with the places they already are at. And so that's a ecosystem approach. The other concept that I want to share is around how we really build this solution. So we think about the solution that we have built. I think Terry talked about, we have products around making right cropping decisions, which is what is happening in our crop input business. So there are products that helps the farmer to understand what seed to plant, what kind of crop nutrient product to use, what kind of crop protection product to use. So those insights and stuff that we have been building for a while. The way that we build those systems is actually a very modular way of building that. The reason for picking this modular approach is, At that point in time, the purpose of those digital tools was to optimize the decision at a farm level for increasing your yield, for example. Now, that same digital product that we have built, now it has expanded to actually providing insights for sustainability, right? So we want to since we build those products in a modular way, when we want to go to market in the sustainability space, we just tapped into the modules that already was built, right? And we were able to do that because it was built in a modular way. And as we are building newer things in Truterra, we are building in a very, like blocks or Lego blocks or modules or whatever we call them, so that as the business evolves tomorrow into something else, we can tap into many of these blocks and assemble them in a different way to serve a new go-to-market strategy. Right? Now, this does not mean that you want to take everything and create a modular blocks, because each of these modular blocks have around 5 to 10 tables behind the scene, or close to 15 services and 50 APIs. So these blocks are takes time and energy and effort to build them out. But wherever you see an opportunity of not creating a monolithic system, but create a system that could be made modular so that you can assemble them in a different way down the line. So that was one of the composable architecture concepts that we have been using for building our solutions. The last part is the learning. So there are 4 major components to that. One is customer-centric. As I said, farmers, they are not looking for a new tool, an additional shiny tool to come in front of them and they want to play with it. No, they want to be able to run their operation. They want to follow sustainability practices, but at the same time be economically viable. So we actually made sure that we are building our systems keeping that in mind. So what we do as part of Truterra is bring in all the public grants, private grants, all together and present it from a farmer so that they can actually look at all that and say, yep, if I follow these 4, if I adopt these 4 programs, I can improve my soil health. I can get some credits from the, from a private sector company or a public sector company. And at the same time, I will be able to be economically viable because, financially this makes sense for me, right? So we keep them at the center and build our systems and technology and solution offering according to that. The second piece is ecosystem approach, which I just talked about, tapping into the players. In fact, we are going to a level that, our president talks about it, about this business unit, that this space is so huge, this problem is so complex to solve, that you want to bring in anybody and everybody who wants to play in this space. So you don't want to have a closed door. Even tomorrow, if, for example, Bayer who's one of our suppliers, or any other company that want to offer a carbon program, we want to bring that program in and make it accessible for our farmers. Right? So we want to build a very open ecosystem where players can come in and bring their services and whatnot. And at the end of the day, this problem is too big to solve for one company. The composable architecture component that I said, what's the advantage? Many of you are in the technology space. It is not easy to do. You had the world of point-to-point integrations, you had the world of APIs, and now it's evolving into microservices. You don't have to solve everything with the microservices, but where possible, where you see an element where you can reuse across the enterprise, you want to build a modular block. Because the flexibility that provides is you can have a set of teams that is working on set of blocks. So you can work on a product that is, say, it requires 10 modules, and you can have one team that focuses on just 3 modules, another team in parallel working on another set of modules, right? So it provides you that scalability too. It provides you that, execution flexibility. At the same time, it makes it reusable components that we can use for, newer digital solutions. The last one that I have is around AI. So how we are using AI in our solutions is, one of the key pieces that we need is a lot of data for calculating your GHG score. So for that data, we are doing remote sense-based practice identification, where it talks about, looking at the imagery, what kind of crop it is, what kind of rotation it is, what kind of, tillage practices we are using, what kind of cover crop you have. And you simplify the data collection aspect by doing a remote sensing so that the farmer does not have to enter all this information. We also use outlier detection to really understand when there is an exception in certain values. If a farmer has X amount of acres, but the yield shows something different, how do we catch those data exceptions so that we can cleanse the data well? We are also using some AI logic in our data quality checks pretty extensively. So it's used there as well. And then the future opportunity that I see with AI is, I think many of you might have heard about the co-pilot concept, how you can really generate code in automated fashion by just putting just a comment, right? So for example, Microsoft, GitHub Copilot, you can go in and just provide the comments and you write the code for you. So that's going to provide a lot of productivity increase for our developers, which is something that we are looking forward to. And then also, if you think about like how Microsoft is thinking about leveraging AI, we have certain tools that we have built for our sales team to do data collection. In those tools, like for example, Power Apps, we are using Power Apps for data collection. There are tables and stuff that are sitting behind the scene. If we activate Microsoft Copilot and just ask question, it will translate that to a SQL command and give you the results for the folks who are not tech savvy, right? So we see a tremendous potential on how AI is used in different facets of the overall solution. And that's how I see increasing productivity, by giving better talent experience, customer experience is where this will play a big role. So that's in short our journey, and hopefully it was of some value, and I'm looking forward to the questions later on today.
Thank you.
Thank you.